All right. Hello, East Central ISD and surrounding communities. Thank you for joining us for another Facebook and YouTube Live. I am Brandon Oliver, and I am the Director of Marketing and Communications for East Central ISD. And for this particular edition of Facebook and YouTube Live, we are looking at charting the course geared specifically towards special education students. And I want to bring on the person that rang my doorbell to get this Facebook and YouTube live going. Heidi P is transition facilitator. How are you doing today, Heidi?
I'm doing wonderfully, thank you. I'm very excited to be here and to share all this great information from a panel of experts from our community to our families with special education students, and so that you can feel prepared and ready to move from middle school to high school, and then from high school on into the workforce and college, or whatever post-secondary may look like for your family and your child. So I'd like to.
Oh, yeah, let's do the Brady Bunch thing and let's bring them all on.
So we have our high school counselor, Lynette Lopez. She's ECHS counselor, and currently she would service any of the special population students. So if your student is in high school, she is probably your student's counselor. You already know her. You may already know her. We also have Heather Long from the Arc of San Antonio, and she'll be discussing community services that we have throughout San Antonio and Bexar County. Rose Trevino and Alma Alvarez are a duo who work for the Texas Workforce Commission. They're vocational rehab counselors, and so they have a wealth of information for you on getting connected with the Texas Workforce Commission even while you're in high school. And then Donna Mims from the Student Hireability Navigator, and she'll be talking to you guys about college, career, and military readiness.
All right. But isn't this cool, this little Brady Bunch thing? You have to do like the little look first, wave down here, wave to the side. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. But Heidi, I'm going to let you take it over from here and take us through this presentation.
All right. Okay, so this course was created for 8th through 10th graders. However, there's a lot of information in here that would be helpful for almost any grade. So even if your student is not in 8th through 10th grade, you can still gather a lot of information. This evening, our focus is going to be to engage students with disabilities and their families in education and planning events to support the student's successful transition to post-secondary education and or employment after high school. And we'll be doing this by reviewing opportunities in education, community, and post-secondary. And then if you will go ahead and show here's a quick introduction video about transitions.
All right, here we go.
Planning for life after high school can be difficult for any student and their family. This is especially true for students with disabilities looking to transition into adulthood. Vocational rehabilitation and school counselors can help students prepare for post-secondary education and the workforce by creating a transition plan aligned to their personal needs and professional goals. That transition plan is located within the student's Individualized Education Program, or IEP. In Texas, the Admission, Review, and Dismissal Committee collaborates to create the student's IEP and ensure that the student is successful. The ARD Committee typically includes the student, a parent or guardian, counselors, and other specialized professionals. The committee customizes the IEP to address the student's strengths, concerns about education, most recent evaluation results, and academic, developmental, and functional needs. Several services are available to students with disabilities, including special education within the public school system, as well as pre-employment transition services, known as pre-ETS, provided by vocational rehabilitation programs. In this module, you'll learn about these services, the IEP process, and strategies to promote self-advocacy. We'll also discuss the different types of accommodations and how to help students prepare for post-secondary and workforce success.
All right, there you go.
All right, so our first portion that we'll talk about is the Individuals with a Disability Act, Education Act, and what transitions looks like in Texas. So the federal law says that transition services need to start occurring at the age of 16, but Texas likes to be a little different, and we actually start this process at the age of 14. So 14 is usually 8th grade. So if you're a family with an 8th grader or even a 7th grader, you may start to see questionnaires coming home about what your student wants to do after they leave high school. During transition services, they talk about appropriate, measurable post-secondary goals that's age appropriate. We use transition assessments. The goals are related to education, training, employment, and if applicable, independent living skills. And we also talk about a student's course of study during the transition services. Here's the process for Texas. And I'm going to Texas has this, but then I'm also going to say, here's how we do it at Decentralized D. First, it starts with transition assessments. You'll begin getting questionnaires and parent surveys starting in 8th grade, if not sooner, asking a series of questions. And within our system, we also have students in class. They are asked about what kind of careers they might be interested in, and they do interest surveys. So if they're in the CCMR class or the AVID class, this is already embedded in for every student in our district, not just students with disabilities. But we use that information to help gather data to find out what your students' interests, preferences, needs, and strengths are. And then from there, your case manager will create present levels of achievement and performance, which talks about the impact of the disability and then the student's disability and how that might look for their strengths and what their needs are. We could create measurable post-secondary goals. So this could be a student wants to work as a veterinarian assistant. That is after they leave high school, they leave high school, they want to work as a veterinarian assistant. So that's like beginning with the end in mind. Once they've left school, what are we planning on doing? And so the IEP, the Individualized Education Plan, helps set the student up into smaller steps each year. How do we get closer to that big goal at the end? There are 3 different goals. Sometimes we only need to talk about 2. Sometimes independent living is not necessarily something that the student needs in the IEP because they may have the similar independent living skills as their peers. And so from there, we talk about annual goals. So annual goal is a goal that the student is working towards from IEP meeting to IEP meeting. Also, we talk about course of study. So this is which classes are they going to be and what kind of services might they need and how long are they going to be in high school. Like Miss Lopez will talk in depth about courses of study. And then that creates our coordinated set of activities once we include related services, community experiences, and courses of study. And then finally, agency linkage, which is who we'll be talking to today, some of our local agencies. And as a senior, the last IEP meeting, you'll talk about your summary of performance. And that information in the summary of performance, you and your student will take on to post-secondary school or job or to agencies, depending on to help with eligibility purposes. So that's how the transition process works. Eligibility to receive special education, 2 things must be in place. So if you believe that your student has maybe has a disability or you've gotten a disability diagnosis, you would let your school know, and they will proceed with evaluations and figuring out eligibility. So in order for a student to be eligible for special education, they need to have at least one of the 13 eligibilities, which are on the left side, disability categories. There are 13 of them. and the disability has to result in the child needing special education services. So if they're still performing on level with their peers who do not have disabilities, they may not qualify for special education. But if they are falling behind and there's data to show that, and they've also been diagnosed with one of these disabilities, then they may receive special education services. And that's when an IEP will be created. Once eligibility has been determined, the ARD committee will develop the IEP. The team will begin by examining the student's present level of academic achievement and functional performance, also known as a PLAF or present levels. In the PLAF, there are 3 required components: the impact of the disability, their strengths, and their needs. And the PLAF can be either academic or functional. So an academic PLAF has to be related to our state standards or TEKS, and a functional can be any non-academic behavior, self-help skills, communication skills, daily living skills. And those are the different types of functional PLAFs and where the student would be at on that. So the impact of disability, this statement is the bridge between the student's evaluation and their IEP. This is the why statement. Why does the student have an IEP? Why are they receiving special education services? And then from there, we talk about how are they going to get special education services? And that's where our goals come into play, and that specially designed instruction comes into play. That's the how. So our why is the student struggling in school? What's the impact of their disability? And then finally, how does that look? And how do we help our students be successful? And that's what our IEPs, that's the whole purpose of your IEP. All right, next up will be Ms. Lopez. She's going to talk about Texas graduation.
Hi, everyone. That went really fast. Texas graduation. In order for a student to graduate in the state of Texas, there's a certain set of requirements. First, that they say is a minimum of 22. 26 is the preferred because that does include our endorsement. And how do I get 26 credits in 4 years and meet all these things? Well, it's very easy. We need 4 years of English, 4 years of math, 4 years of science, 3 years of social studies, with the exception of one of our endorsements that requires 4, 1 full year of PE, 1 full year of fine art, 2 years of a foreign language. They have to be the same. They cannot be combined. And 7 electives in my program of study. Now, that would be what we're looking at. And that is our goal. When our students transfer up to the high school, we're going to make sure to keep them on track so that they can reach those 26. And as you can see, it says right down the center, the 22 is the bare minimum. Essential does nothing bare minimum. We want the best and our students to be exposed to everything. So we have everybody focused on a program of study, which includes their endorsement. The next level would be our distinguished level. Distinguished level means that the student has taken, attempted, and passed Algebra 2 and received an endorsement, which is very easily accessible. We have a majority of our students who are able to reach those goals. Performance acknowledgements is that extra effort above. Say, for example, we have one in bioliteracy, which means that the student maintain an 80 in all 4 years, an 80 or higher in all 4 years of English while they're at the high school. Some have them in bilingualism. So it just depends. Those are available to all of our students, especially our special education students. We do work very diligently to keep them on track. Next slide. Okay. So yes, there are 2 basic tracks that our students with special ed can follow. We try to stay with the first one, which is the 26 credits on track, making sure they're able to access all of the programs of studies and with their accommodations and compliance with their IEPs. What if a student is not able to do that and we have a couple of different changes? That would be where we do based on their IEPs, which is on the next slide. Because the IEP, as Heidi explained, is developed as an individual plan for that student. Each one is independent of each other. So therefore, if student A requires a different format or different way of accessing the curriculum for them to be successful, and we're able to meet that, then we will meet that. It is an individual basis. The art committee is there, and we were able to make that. Now then, some students stay a little bit longer with us, and that's okay. Again, they must have the IEP growth on there to be able to be successful. In middle school, this is where our middle school students are already exposed, as Heidi explained, to all the endorsements that we have offered here. Start focusing on their graduation plan, start discussing what does the level of achievement look like, and our endorsements. College readiness standards are already in place through their AVID and their CCMR classes, and the potential choices in these classes, since they do have a little bit more of an opportunity to do what we call career exploration in the classrooms. A PGP is a plan that we use to help identify the students' readiness for graduation and what they're able to need to facilitate from middle school to high school to real world situations. Are we going to provide additional training for that student? Did we network with that student? Did we give them the resources? How are we going to go from our lovely comfort of East Central community to the community in which they're going to be productive citizens in? There are different levels of endorsements. Here at East Central, we are very lucky that our district has designed 5 levels of endorsement that we offer, which is STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. The business and industry, which is one of our largest ones, that does handle all of our tourism, all of our culinary, marketing, fashion design, you name it, it's out there. Vet medicine, it's available through our business and industries. Our public service, we have our fire science, our health services program that also has our teachers, our educational tracks, our health science are all within our public service. Arts and humanities is just that. If a student has chosen that they're passionate about either the visual or the performing arts, they are focused on the languages. Maybe they want to study sign language for 4 years to become sign language certified. They're able to do that within that track. Now, we do have students that come in and say, Miss, I really don't know what I want to study. I'm still trying to figure things out. That's the multidisciplinary. It allows the student to try a couple of different things while still staying focused on a program of study to be consistent, because ultimately we want them to reach the end with a certification or job training skill that'll help them in the future.
Thank you, Ms. Lopez.
Thank you.
Next up, we're going to have Ms. Rose Trevino and Alma Alvarez from the Texas Workforce Commission, and they're going to discuss the services that the Texas Workforce Commission has for us.
Thank you, Heidi. Thank you for taking the time to join us today out of your busy schedules. I'm Alma Alvarez. I'm a transition counselor with Texas Workforce Vocational Rehabilitation Services, which is a really long title, but we are with Texas Workforce Commission. I've been in this position serving East Central, San Antonio ISD, and Harlandale ISD for 7 years. I'm glad that you all were able to join us today, and happy that you are already thinking about transition because that's the goal of our Texas Workforce Transition program. Next slide, please. So now we're going to watch a video regarding the services that are provided and supported by Texas Workforce Commission. We provide services to students from as young as being a young student to adulthood. So we'll take a look at that video right now.
In this podcast, we'll introduce you to the Texas Workforce Commission and its scope of services. The Texas Workforce Commission, TWC. The Texas Workforce Commission is a partner in the Texas Workforce Solutions System, which encompasses TWC's partnership with the 28 local workforce development boards, board staff, and board service provider and/or contractor staff, as well as other partners including other state agencies. Together, we work to promote and support a workforce system that creates value and offers employers, individuals, and communities the opportunity to achieve and sustain the economic prosperity. The Texas Workforce Solutions System includes 28 workforce development boards, which together make up Texas Workforce Solutions. Local workforce solutions offices number approximately 200, located throughout the state. Last year, Texas Workforce Solutions assisted job seekers in making nearly 1.1 million new employment connections and directly served nearly 90,000 employers. As the primary oversight agency for the Texas Workforce Solutions System in the state, some of the responsibilities of the Texas Workforce Commission include oversight of statewide workforce development activities, assurance of compliance with statutes and regulations, evaluation of board oversight capacity and fiscal integrity, board performance measurement and target negotiation, review of board member nominees and their approval, technical assistance and policy guidance, training and development, allocation of federal and state funds and grant resources, coordination with state-level agencies and initiatives, research and evaluation, and administration of unemployment insurance, or UI, benefits, taxes, and trust funds, enforcement of wage payment and child labor laws, certification of workforce solutions offices, automated management information system support via the Workforce Information System of Texas or TWIST, contract execution, management, and monitoring, surveying and reporting of employment statistics, development of labor market and career information or LMCI, and maintenance and enhancement of workintexas.com, TWC's online job matching system. Workforce development. TWC is responsible for overseeing workforce development programs and initiatives, which provide a wide variety of services that support customers. Workforce development services include the support of a market-driven, integrated system that consolidates employment, job training, and work-related services, including the regulation of career schools and colleges. Federal legislation requires that workforce solutions offices provide labor market information to customers. This includes data about occupations and industries in demand, both statewide and at the local level, and other information about labor market trends and economic conditions that help customers make informed choices. In order to design service delivery strategies and assess the needs among businesses and other customers, it is critical to analyze economic factors and trends. In addition, local workforce development boards identify forces driving their regional economy in order to collaborate effectively with their regional partners. TWC oversees support services, including subsidized child care, provided to workforce development customers of targeted populations participating in certain workforce programs. The direct services are provided by the local board's contracted service providers. These support services address barriers customers may have that prohibit them from participating in workforce services and from obtaining and retaining employment. Through performance-based contracts, TWC monitors and holds the boards accountable for program performance and provides technical assistance as needed. Board contracts cover the delivery of services for multiple programs, such as the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, which offers an integrated and comprehensive range of services, consisting of employment and training services for adults, dislocated workers, and youth. The Wagner-Pieser Employment Services, and the Adult Education and Literacy Programs. Trade Act Services, which helps trade-affected, dislocated workers locate new jobs as quickly as possible. Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, Employment and Training, which promotes long-term self-sufficiency and independence by preparing recipients for employment through work-related education and training activities. The Choices Program, which provides job search assistance and support to people receiving cash assistance benefits through the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families Block Grant. Vocational Rehabilitation Programs. Effective September 1, 2016, The following programs and services transfer to TWC: the Vocational Rehabilitation (VR) program for individuals with visual impairments, including the Chris Cole Rehabilitation Center. The VR General program for individuals with other disabilities. The Independent Living Services for older individuals who are blind grant. And the Business Enterprises of Texas program. Both the Blind and General VR programs provide a wide range of services to help individuals with disabilities prepare for, find, and keep meaningful jobs that pay a competitive salary. The VR programs also serve youth and students with disabilities to help prepare for post-secondary education and to provide pre-employment services. The Independent Living Services Grant provides services to individuals over the age of 55 who are blind or visually impaired to help them live independently in their homes and communities and to avoid institutionalization. The Business Enterprises of Texas program provides support to managers of food service and vending companies who are blind and to the organizations that host those operations. TWC Unemployment Insurance, UI, and Administration. TWC administers the UI benefit system, which is funded by employer taxes. It provides temporary, partial income replacement to workers who have lost their jobs through no fault of their own. TWC administers and oversees the collection of taxes from employers and payment of UI benefits to eligible claimants. TWC also provides a formal appeal procedure when issues surrounding a claim are in dispute, or when questions arise concerning an employer's tax liability, contribution, or reimbursement. Texas employers can receive ready access to their tax account information by registering for unemployment tax services. UI administration is a function performed solely at the state level. Board and board contractor staff are only involved in UI administration by way of disseminating information to customers, such as giving out the appropriate UI telecenter phone numbers, directing where to find online UI services and appeal forms on TWC's internet site, and assisting with registration on workintexas.com. All other UI claimant questions should be routed to TWC state-level UI staff. Adult Education and Literacy Programs. Adult Education and Literacy Programs, funded by the Texas Workforce Commission, TWC, provide English language, math, reading, and writing instruction to help students acquire the skills needed to succeed in the workforce, earn a high school equivalency diploma, or enter college or career training. Our Adult Education and Literacy Program serves adults who are at least 16 years old and/or beyond the compulsory school attendance age, and who function below the high school level, lack a high school credential, and/or are unable to speak, read, or write in English. Business Services. The Office of Employer Initiatives convenes representatives of industry, workforce development, and the educational community, as well as other stakeholders, to develop and deploy innovative solutions to employer challenges. Additionally, the Employer Initiatives team staffs and manages the Governor's Industry Cluster Initiative for statewide workforce and economic development. Employer Initiatives also promotes and helps administer the Skills Development Fund, TWC's premier job training program, that provides grants to community and technical colleges, which in turn provide customized job training programs for businesses that want to train new workers or upgrade the skills of their existing workforce. Civil Rights. TWC Civil Rights Division enforces equal employment opportunity and fair housing laws. Workintexas.com. Workintexas.com is Texas's online public job matching or labor exchange system that matches qualified job seekers with employers' job postings. This job matching system is available to the public, both employers and job seekers, at no cost. Employers can post job openings, run job matches, and search for qualified applicants. Job seekers have immediate access to job matching services that allow them to browse thousands of job postings, apply for open positions, complete resumes and state applications, and store application materials online. This online system also ensures that veterans receive preference for employment opportunities. This concludes the TWC 101 podcast. More information about TWC can be found on the TWC website.
So as we can see, the video covered an array of employment services under the TWC umbrella. The VR program is just one of the many, but it is the only program specifically designed to support individuals with disabilities who have a goal of employment. In the next slides, we're going to be looking at the goal of the transition program and the services that we provide, and also the two options for students to apply for services and how to access the services. In this slide, as you can see, we defined a student with a disability as defined by vocational rehabilitation. So students have to be between the ages of 14 and 22. They have to be eligible for receiving special education services or 504 services, and they have to be attending an educational program. This can include high school, college, university level training, homeschool, schools in the as well as vocational training. So there are two options, as I mentioned. The first one is very simple. It's done by requesting pre-employment services, simply by speaking to a VR counselor and completing a few consent forms so that we can verify the student's disability. In this first option, the services are limited. They are limited to 5 pre-ET services. We call them pre-ETs, pre-employment services. And then we have the second option, which is also labeled number 1, but it's actually number 2. And they can apply for the full array of VR services. This is done also by speaking with a VR counselor, completing a full VR application. We determine an eligibility, and then the student not only has access to the 5 pre-employment training services, but they also would have access to job placement services and training assistance under this eligibility. And Rose is going to go more into detail about the process and the options for applying for these services. So if a student applies under the first option, next slide, please. Yeah, if the student applies under the first option and they qualify under a student with a disability and determined to be potentially eligible, they qualify for the 5 pre-ET services, which are job exploration counseling, work-based learning, counseling on post-secondary opportunities, work readiness training, and self-advocacy. And so we'll be going into what specific activities are under each of these categories. Next slide. So the first one, and all these services are pretty much to enhance the services that the school is already providing. So that's important to note, that we are providing services on top of what the school is providing the students in their IEPs, and just to ensure that they have more access to the work readiness and to preparing for their transition. And so the first pre-ET service is job exploration counseling. And so under job exploration counseling, a trained vocational rehabilitation counselor can discuss career options one-on-one with the student. They can complete assessments and review them with the student as well, describe the tasks of different jobs in detail, the type of pay to expect in a job, the work environment that they would be exposing themselves to, and also identify the students' strengths and their limitations to help them plan the best career route. So that is job exploration counseling. Next slide. The second pre-ETS service that they would qualify for under this first option is work-based learning. The goal here is to provide opportunities for the student to develop work skills by engaging the student in real-life work experiences and activities. This allows them to practice in a supportive environment. We can work with the family, the student, and the school to develop a good plan included in their school services. For example, a possibility of volunteer work in the community. This serves two purposes. The student is able to show the employer their abilities, and the employer is able to see the student's capabilities. And sometimes it results in a job offer, and I've seen that happen quite often. So that's one of the opportunities that we do offer. Here are some examples of work-based learning activities, paid and unpaid work experience, informational interviews, career mentorship, job shadowing. So it's an array of activities that we can assist in developing for the student and arrange for them to participate in. Next slide. The third service that the student would qualify for is counseling on post-secondary opportunities. The goal here is for the student to develop awareness of their career pathways and the steps that are necessary to enter and be accepted into these training programs of their interest. The students are engaged in counseling regarding their interests and avenues to help them reach their goals. We really try to get to the best starting point for each student to enter their field of interest through entry-level work, vocational training, apprenticeships, college or university training. This also includes discussions on the 16 career clusters developed by the Department of Labor, and also having discussions regarding the students' career interests as related to the labor market here in San Antonio to ensure that students are going to have a job after they're done with their training. So we do want to make sure that we're leading students in the right direction where there is demand in the jobs and with the most appropriate and suitable start for them. Next slide. The fourth pre-ETS service is work readiness training, workplace readiness training. The goal here is to help the student develop soft skills, to help them learn the do's and don'ts of work. Some examples of this are mock interviews, creating elevator speeches so that they are able to go into a employer and introduce themselves, identify their strengths and reasons why they should be hired. We can provide this service either through the counselor or through vendors that are vetted by TWC in or outside of the school setting. Next slide. And the fifth and final service is self-advocacy. This service is referred to in the schools as self-determination. In this service, the goal is to develop skills for the student to take initiative independently, ask questions, develop skills to ask for help, voice their needs confidently, speak up, and we encourage the students to participate in their ARDs so that they can plan their schedules, voice their likes and dislikes in an appropriate manner. So that's the goal of self-advocacy. And so at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Rose, and she's going to discuss how to access the services and the process for application with Texas Workforce VR.
Good evening. My name is Rose Trevino. Like Ms. Alma, I am a transition counselor, but I have a specialty caseload, which means I work with the blind and visually impaired students within East Central and surrounding school districts. Welcome. Thank you for attending. So as Ms. Alma was noted earlier, all the services that were listed in the pre-employment transition services, those 5 core services, are available to any student that has been identified either by special education or 504 as a student with a disability. So in order to participate in those activities, there are some documentations that we will need. The first one is basically a consent to allow us to provide these services. Because of your child's age, that will have to be done by the parent. So that information can either be given to you at an ARD meeting or sent to your home. We do require that you complete it and send back to us. I know with COVID, it's a little more difficult to get that information, but that is required for us to implement any of these services. So once we get that form back from you, then we do require some verification of the disability. That is usually provided by the school district. Those in 504, we might need some medical information. All those consents would also be requested at that time. The next slide, please. So if your child is going to need some more specialized services that extend beyond the pre-TS services, such as supported employment or maybe long-term job coaching, those type of services that are substantial, you and your child would have to apply for services at that point. So application is it's a different process. So basically you will have to contact either Alma or your local office to request an application. Basically, when you call and contact us, we do require some initial information. Our services, when you apply for VR services, it is important that you are eligible to work in the United States. So we do request Social Security information, some verification of that. So if it's not a Social Security card, maybe it's passport or whatever else might verify that they're able to be employed within the United States. So at the application, we'll take some information down about your student's disability, any employment history, how they perceive their disability to impact their employment options, and then medical documentation as well. And if your child is receiving SSI or SSDI, we do request either a letter from that or we can request it on your behalf as well. Next slide, please. So in order to be determined eligible for VR services, there are certain things that we look at. So these are the 4 criteria that we are looking at as far as the more advanced services. So they have to have a physical or mental impairment, which has been identified, of course, by special education or your doctor. There has to be a substantial impediment for employment. A lot of students with disabilities are able to get employment on their own, and we're more than happy to support that. But it has to be something that just wouldn't take your student applying for a job. It might need some additional supports and services. And it's also our services are for employment. So these are to help them secure, retain, advance, and regain employment. So sometimes when a student might have gotten a job on their own, and then for whatever reason, their disability, maybe they're not able to communicate their needs or advocate for themselves, they've been released from their employment. So if that happens, we can definitely, that is a barrier to employment, and we can have them apply for services. And identifying that early on would really help us as far as what might need to happen and what kind of services are required for your student. Next one, please. So all that information as listed prior determines them eligible for services. If they're determined ineligible for whatever reason, you are notified of that. There is a letter that is given out to every person that applies that isn't eligible. You can always come back to us later if something happens. Ineligibility doesn't mean they're ineligible forever. It's just at this time in this time they might not need our services. So feel free to return to us should things change. If they're eligible, we do have what we call an individualized plan for employment, an IPE. It's a lot different than an IEP. So this plan is basically focused on services for employment. It lists the services that are required for your child are to be employed, and it also lists their responsibilities, like contacting us, informing us of any needs or things aren't working appropriately. So it's geared toward their strengths, their priorities, their concerns. It's, as it says, individualized, and every student or every customer that works within VR has an IPE that is developed and specifically for their needs, and that is updated as needed. It's not something that is set in stone. It's a working document. So should things change, services are needed, we can always go back and amend that, just like an IEP as well. Next one, I think we're done. Thank you so much, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask at the end.
Okay, so we talked about self-determination and self-advocacy has been brought up a couple of times. So I wanted to go ahead and look at that a little bit more in depth and what that means and what that may look like. So self-determination refers to the characteristics of a person that leads them to make choices and decisions based on their own preference and interests, to monitor and regulate their own actions and be goal-oriented and self-directing. So self-determination is something that we learn as we start learning as young kids, and we continue to grow into that and get better at it as we get older. Self-advocacy is a skill that allows kids to understand their strengths and weaknesses, know what they need to succeed, and communicate that to other people. Self-advocacy can be broken down into a few key elements: understanding their specific needs. This is part of self-awareness. Knowing what help or support will address those needs, like tutoring or classroom accommodations, and communicating those needs to their teachers, employers, and others. So here's a quick video about self-determination. I want you to notice how young these students are in this video, and how we can be teaching. We do teach our students early on self-determination skills, but it can definitely we can always keep strengthening those skills at home and at school. So here's a quick video on self-determination.
Read more in school and stay on track of class and paying attention more. What time is it? I can and I have autism and ADHD. And when I'm mad, I can let them know that I need a quiet space so I can cool down and just have a little alone time, because it makes me feel a lot better, because I can think about what I can't do and what is not appropriate and what that is appropriate to do. Self-determination means asking for help when you need help. Self-determination means that I take care of my own hearing aids and I test them every day at Mr. Moore's room in a book, and I go to the office and check them. I throw the batteries away and put new ones in, and it's really important so I can take care of them real good. Self-determination means to me raising my hand and asking questions and me. Self-determination means to me when.
All right, I'm not sure why there's not sound in the video.
Yeah, it's pretty low. That's okay. So this was a video that was made to demonstrate younger students, even at the elementary level, practicing their self-determination and discussing with adults, what does that look like for them and what does that mean? And so that is a skill that we're constantly trying to build up as they go through school and into the workforce. There's a ton of resources for families at imdetermined.org. And so that is, if there's some things that, especially that you see that your student might want to work on, or you want to talk with them about, there's a bunch of different resources in there for them. All right, next up is going to be Donna Mims from Student Hireability. So she's going to discuss the next few slides.
Good evening, should I say. My name is Donna Mims, and like Ms. Pete said, I am the Student Hireability Navigator, or one of them, at the Board of Workforce Solutions, Alamo. And some of my primary role, it's not all inclusive, but some of my role involves sharing and promoting pre-ETS information, and Rose and Irma did a great job with going through what those 5 main pre-ETS are, so I won't bore you with going through that again. But sharing and promoting pre-ETS information or pre-employment transition services information to parents and students of individuals with a disability. Also bridging and connecting post-secondary education and or career employment resources, partnering with VR, the chambers of commerce, charters, schools, homeschool individuals, the underserved and non-served community of individuals who are in the area of transition to the next phase of their adulthood and going into adulthood, as well as their community. So the first slide here is the college readiness standards, which is basically college and career and or military readiness, and that's just a component of the student achievement to measure the graduate's preparedness for college, the workforce, or for the military. The great thing about our exceptional community is that they have choices as well, and these are some of the choices. Next slide, please. Some of those college readiness standards, it's basically what the student needs to know to be able to succeed at entry-level courses, whether it's from a 2-year or a 4-year or a technical school, but they need to be able to succeed at an entry level for their courses at public and or technical colleges and universities. Next slide, please. So to learn more about the career exploration opportunities that are available to your youth, your VR counselor is a wonderful resource for that. Your workforce career centers are excellent resources for that. Your educators, those who work closely with you, parents within your 504, those exceptional educators who work closely with you, they're great assets to you to be able to identify what your student may be interested in to do that career, to work for that career exploration. And again, some of that career exploration includes work-based training, work-based learning opportunities such as SEAL, which we'll talk about later. SEAL is one of those programs, and we'll get to that here shortly. I don't want to go too fast, get ahead of myself. So in order to check what your student, next slide, please, for your student, what your student may be interested in, there are some wonderful self-assessments that are offered, and they're all free of charge. And they're accessible either through the TWC site, or you can, there are links that are absolutely available to you. And again, they are free. Those include ONET, and I think somebody mentioned those already. 2Focus, Texas Reality Check. That's one of my absolutely I love that one because it breaks it down to for the student. If the student wants a cell phone, for instance, if they plan to live at home or have their own place, if it's an apartment or renting a home, they can estimate how much money they'll need so they can know what possible career field they may need to go in, whether it's entry level or if they have that opportunity to gain some education in order to progress to what the level of career that they want to reach. Career One Stop is an excellent one, and that's also utilized on some of the with the military bases, which we'll also get to. And then Jobs Y'all, that's one that we utilize very frequently at Workforce Solutions Alamo. The career centers utilize that one, and that's actually on the WSA site, and you can actually find these links as well as VR's link on the WSA website as well. Next slide, please. So we mentioned the military just a little bit. It's an excellent alternative to students. Not everybody wants to go to a trade school, a formal school at this point in their life, nor that they may want to go to a college or university, and that's totally okay. And I love that what we do is we let the student know and we let the parents know that's totally fine. It doesn't make you wrong at all. There are other options for your young person, and the military is one of those wonderful opportunities. As you can see, there the four main branches are Army, Marine Corps, Navy, and the Army. Those are the main ones. And there's also Space Force and Coast Guards. And the Armed Reserve. None of them are above the other one. All of them are excellent. And what they offer, you can talk to a career counselor within the military branch that you're interested in. And I encourage you not to just go to one, go to all of them. Talk to a career counselor at all of them, or a recruiter, they call them, I'm sorry. And they can get you, you only have to take the ASVAB once, so you don't have to take it for each branch. So that's really good to know. And then the opportunities, go look on the website, on the Navy website, Army website, look on all of the websites to see what opportunities you may be interested in. And there are different levels as far as training, boot camp training and such. Those may change depending on the branch of service that you're interested in. But you can also get an education through the military, and it's basically a part of your package. It's free education, so you're getting job training, and it covers all 5 of the pre-ETs essentially, and you're also getting that advocacy. They're promoting that self-advocacy, because you do have to speak up for yourself, and they encourage that. So the military is a wonderful asset, that a wonderful alternative if a student may not want to go directly into the work field at that level, entry level, or if they're not, they may not want to go to a traditional classroom immediately transitioning from high school. Next slide, please. So we touched on the Summer Earn and Learn program, or SEAL. This is a summer paid internship that it's also a part of the pre-ETs. It's work-based learning. It's also, again, paid internship. You're getting hands-on training. VR is very essential in this, with this particular program as well. This is an initiative that's paid through the state of Texas, and the Workforce Solutions, the board is in VR management. We partner very closely with one another in order to implement and to get these jobs for these students, which is why VR is so important in that. And that's why it's so important for you all as parents to find your VR counselor, so that these programs are available to you, and all these services are free of charge. You go into your closest workforce center and ask to speak to a VR counselor there. These services are all free, and they're all available to you. Again, this is something that an initiative that takes place each year during the summer months, with the exception of 2020 due to COVID-19. But we are definitely in the planning stages, and so excited to be able to offer this and to move forward with it for 2021. Definitely, again, get with your counselor and your TBRC so that you can see what opportunities are available for your young person. Next slide, please. Oh, that's it for me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that information. We all do. And then go ahead. We're going to have Heather from the ARC of San Antonio discuss services that are offered to all of our students from pre-K all the way through high school, and into adulthood.
Yes, thank you, Heidi. Thank you for having me. Again, my name is Heather Long, and I'm the Director of Family Support Services at the ARC of San Antonio. For those of you that don't know about the ARC, we've been here in San Antonio for over 65 years. The program was started by parents who were looking for a way to get services for their children or their adults with disabilities. There's ARCs all across the United States, so really any state that you go to, you'll find an ARC. I'm going to jump down past that second bullet right there and just talk a little bit about the folks that we serve. We serve over 1,800 individuals a year, 1,200 school-age children. The people that we really serve are individuals, children or adults that have intellectual or developmental disabilities. And that could include autism, cerebral palsy, traumatic brain injuries. So anyone that needs any kind of assistance. Now, we do that through We have direct services and outreach services. Our direct service program is our adult life enrichment program. So for anyone that's over the age of 18, they can participate in our adult life enrichment program. It's where an individual, once they've graduated, they can come to the ARC, continue to work on independent skills, socialize, have volunteer opportunities, and come on a daily basis or part-time if they're working. Right now, we are having individuals come to our program in person. It's very limited. And we're also offering services through virtual community. I want to highlight one of our programs, the program that I direct, Family Support Services. One of the things that we do, we strive to be a social service home for a family. So we can serve any individual, regardless of age, diagnosis, income. We can meet with the family, and prior to COVID, we were meeting with families face to face, and that's what we prefer. But during this time, we're meeting virtually with families and going over a checklist of resources and helping them connect to all types of services and programs within the community. And it, depending on the age of the individual, if it's a child or an adult, will target that age and provide those services, those connections and that navigation. And so we do that through partnerships through school districts like East Central. We do have a partnership with East Central where we have days of the month that we have families that meet with us. We have someone that schedules through East Central so we can meet with the family. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. So let me go ahead and talk about one of the really, really important agencies that one of the first things we really try to connect individuals to and make sure they're plugged into is the local authority. So every county has what's called a local intellectual developmental disability authority. And for Bexar County, that's ACOG. And ACOG is the Alamo Area Council of Governments. ACOG is an umbrella agency, so they serve all sorts of individuals. They serve seniors, but they also serve folks that are that have intellectual and developmental disabilities. So it's really, really important for families, especially when their child gets into middle school, hopefully even before high school, that they connect to ACOG and complete an intake. And what that entails is filling out an application, going through a whole intake process where they're determined eligible. That process can take a long time. For folks that turn in an application, it could take about a year before they actually get in the door for that intake appointment. But what that will provide them once they go through the process, ACOG can be that safety net of services if there's any kind of crisis or assistance needed. They're also a hub, or they also coordinate two of the long-term care programs, Texas Home Living Waiver and the Home and Community Services Waiver. And I'm going to talk a little bit about those following this slide. They're also the gatekeeper for individuals if they're looking at, once they've graduated or exited the school system, if they're looking for a group home, they're that gatekeeper and that facilitator for that process. Okay, next slide. So let me talk about the long-term support services that are called the Medicaid waiver programs. Waiver programs are funding services that the state has, and it allows, these waiver programs allow the state to provide services to individuals with intellectual or developmental disabilities, or elderly too. There's also services, waiver services for elderly individuals. But it allows the state to provide these services, provide more flexibility. In the past, Medicaid traditionally would only provide long-term services in a residential program, whether that be a nursing home or a state-supported living center. So what these programs have allowed is for these services to now be provided in the community. And so it's really important to get your student's name on the waiting list for these programs. And they're not really called waiting lists, they're called interest lists, because you're not really going through an eligibility process to get on these lists. You're literally contacting a phone number and providing your students basic information, and also just filling out, or you're completing a questionnaire over the phone. And so what these services do is they provide an individual Medicaid if they don't already have it. So all of that medical coverage, doctors, hospitalizations. But on top of that, and what's really important is it provides long-term support services. Things like assistance in the home, employment assistance, day programs, specialized therapies, behavioral supports. So depending on what that individual needs is what will determine the services that you're going to receive under the waiver. And you can be on all of the waiting lists. They're all a little different in terms of who their priority populations are and what the services are that fall under the waivers. So it's important to get on all of the waiting lists or interest lists. So when the time comes up, and the time frames are very long for these programs. Like I'm looking on our chart here, and this one's a little older. It's now about 15 years wait for some of the programs. It could be up to 15 years. So very, very important to get on those interest lists. The phone numbers are listed there to get on the Bexar County waiver interest list. So those are the 2 phone numbers that you would want to contact. If anyone needs any kind of support or guidance and navigation on what waivers to look at, what other programs to be considering, like Social Security or guardianship and alternatives, they can use the ARC as a resource, and we're happy to help navigate through all of those different services. Now, and even once an individual's out of high school, we want to be a social service home across a lifetime for a family. Okay, that's all.
Okay, so that was the teach piece of our presentation. Our panelists will come back up in a few minutes. I do want to put out here, there's a participant survey. If you could go to the QR code or go to the website, the bit.ly website, this survey will be able to get information. Like, we would like your feedback on how helpful we were. In addition to that, there's an option to choose if you want more information from us. So if you want more information from us, like, the survey's anonymous unless you pick that, and then we'll need your contact information in order to follow up with you, and you have the option to put in more specific questions and who you'd like to speak to. So this participant survey is available. We strongly encourage you to complete it and fill it out, and then we'll bring all of our panelists back in. Okay, so with the ARC of San Antonio, I do want to reiterate that we do have monthly meetings with the ARC of openings. You can contact me, or you can contact your campus special education facilitator to get you an appointment. The ARC of San Antonio is coming this week, tomorrow, I believe. Tomorrow. Yeah. So, and I say coming because of COVID, it's actually all virtual. And meetings can be in Spanish as well, so it does not have to be in English. And you can show us you can tell us that's what you need.
Heidi, can I take this minute to recap a couple of things? Because after listening to everybody's presentations, I want to be able to blend that with what we have. And plus the fact that I forgot to introduce myself. I am Lynette Lopez. I am the high school counselor here at East Central High School. I only work with the special ed population. So I receive them for when they're transitioning at the end of their 8th grade year till they time to leave, either at graduation of with their cohort or when their IEP is completed at 22. So listening to all of the great outside resources, I totally value that. I want to remind you that here in East Central, we actually have a program called Major Clarity that our middle schools are utilizing so that they can begin using a computer-based career exploration that we have turned to. And it's real life scenarios, real life videos that the students are able to pick. Do I want to do this? Or what if my action does this? How is the response going to be? And it allows them, and they can do it multiple times. I believe it's through their CCMR and through their Avid classrooms. If your student has not, please ask them to go into that and start looking at that. That does help with the transition because as they mentioned, not everybody is an academic person. So we do have the vocational certifications. Here at East Central, a student can graduate with a CNA, CMA certification, a welding certification, their OSHA requirements. I recently had a student who finished and he actually had his sheet metal welding certificate for him. That's amazing. This kid's going to probably earn more than I do. The international certifications that they have, we help all of our students to access the certifications that they are interested in. That is our goal. When I say we, myself, the special ed department, now Heidi has been working alongside the CCMR program here within our district to have the opportunities to engage all of our students. Yes, we have 5 endorsements with over 22 different programs to study. So if you're interested in something, we can probably find it. We can mesh it. I'm here to help you. When I say that, I provide the academic, social, emotional. I will encourage you. I will help pick you up along with our special ed facilitators, your case managers. We are a team. We have and I'm gonna throw it out there. Last year, we had 75% of our students that were career college readiness. They met the expectations of what we needed. They were excited. It was exciting to get to that platform because we have been revamping the special ed department and accessibility for the last several years. It starts with us. And as you can see, it will roll over and finish in within our resources within the community. If there is something that I can help you with directly, right now we're in the middle of course selections. So of course that endorsement piece, that course of study, what I want to look into, it's very important so that we know which best way to gear you to that. That's just what I wanted to plug in. Oh yes, ASVAB, it was mentioned. We do offer ASVAB to all of our juniors. So as a junior, you're able to take that here on campus or, and I'm going to say, because I think they did it in November. So it's an automatic for all of our juniors to take that. College Board Readiness Test for your SAT or your ACT. Accommodations are available. And guess what? Yeah. I'm that accommodation person. So if that is something of interest, please reach out to me. Communicate with us. We are here to help. I am here to help you facilitate that. And there's an abundance of everything else that I do. I'm the #1 cheerleader for my kids. So everybody knows that. That's all I have to say, Heidi.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, we're here at East Central. All of us are all hands on deck and ready to support all of our students to make sure everybody gets what they need and moves into meaningful and purposeful lives after high school. So, okay, we're ready for question and answer time.
All right. So, for the folks that are watching, they can ask questions or make comments. Just getting a lot of great compliments. Here's Amanda Holman, great job, team. So many resources available to our EC students. There was a question a little while back from Alma, actually, and it was, "Hi, Alma. If a student receives any of these services, where are the counseling sessions, trainings currently being conducted?"
It's pre-ed service. I think she was referring to pre-ed services.
So right now, because of COVID, the services are being provided virtually. We have vendors that are providing them via Zoom. And so we're able to continue to provide that. In the schools, if the school makes arrangements with us, we can provide those one-on-one, or the vendor can also provide them at their site of their place of business. Of course, right now, because of COVID, there are some restrictions on that, but we do continue to provide depending on the family's comfort level.
We're also providing pre-ed services to our 18 plus program in the class, so while they're at school. So.
All right, Patricia, thank you so much for your question. We'll hold about another minute or so for any more questions here. I did want to repeat to our viewers that this Facebook Live and YouTube Live lives forever at the same links that you took to get here. So if you missed something or want to go back and watch, if one of these great ladies, amazing ladies said, something, and you want to go back and watch it, you can go back at any time, even if it's 4 o'clock in the morning. Again, just a lot of compliments. Patricia wrote, ECHS loves you, Miss Lopez. And then Nina Pugh, lots of great opportunities for all students. Let us know what you need. I think there's not a lot of questions because your presentation was spot on. So like, I don't know what else you could ask, Patricia said same with TSI for seniors.
Yes, TSI is available through the Go Center. That is our number one go-to place for all of our college accessibilities. TSI is tested. They do seniors on Thursdays, and now we're doing 9 going to 10th grade on Tuesdays, because that's part of the programs for our Alamo Academies, and for our welding program, they are required to attempt the TSI, not necessarily pass it, but they do have to attempt it so that they can have their college credits awarded to them.
All right. Heidi, amazing job. I know you had to direct and talk in a lot of this, but do you want to give each of the guests like a kind of a final statement, or maybe where they can contact or something like that?
Absolutely. Let's go ahead. We'll just go down the line. Heather Long from ARCA San Antonio.
Thank you.
Actually, let me see. I have my. Hold on a second. Here we go. I went down. I'm in the wrong order. That's okay.
Yeah. Just a reminder that we want to be a social service home for families. There's no cost to use our services in terms of the family support or the case management. So feel free to reach out to myself, and I'd be happy to meet with you and help you get connected.
Great. Texas or Workforce Solutions, Alamo, Donna.
Sorry about that. I had to unmute. No, I encourage you all to just go onto the WSA website, and that's just Workforce Solutions. If you just type in Workforce Solutions, you will be able to access a lot of our partners such as we are, and to see all of the great resources. And Ms. Lynette pointed out some of the resources that are also available at Workforce Center, at the Workforce Center. So if you can't get to her, well, I guess we're the next best thing, because she sounds we're the next best thing. So again, all of the resources are absolutely free, and you have access to your counselors by going into a Workforce Center as well.
Great. TWC, Alma and Rose.
So thank you for having us on this evening. I've been with eCentral working with your team for 7 years, and you guys are awesome. I really appreciate your collaboration and the teamwork that everyone is about at EC. And I work with a lot of different school districts, 3. So, I get to see differences. If families are interested, please, you can ask for me to be at your ARD meeting if that's something y'all would like. You can also complete a form to request more information, or you can contact me or Rose at the numbers listed here. We also have our website listed, which is www.twc.texas.gov. And it has all of the TWC programs and explanations about what each program offers and the qualifications. We also have a vocational rehabilitation inquiry number, that is used across the state, and anyone can call. Please remember that we not only service students, we service adults with disabilities. So any adult with a disability can call and do an intake over the phone at this number, which is 512-936-6400. And then if you're looking for your local office, which is closest to your home, you can go onto this website and you can plug in your zip code, and it'll let you know the closest office near your home, and then provide you the address and phone number to that office. So it was a pleasure being with y'all. Thank you for joining us.
Thank
I
you.
did want to ask for blind and visually impaired. It is a specialty caseload, so we do request and encourage parents to enroll into services sooner than later. So if you have a child with a visual impairment or you're not unsure of what their site might be, please reach out to us. We can provide some referrals, some information. Because of that vision loss, it does impact a whole lot of different situations. So the sooner we can get services to your child, the better. So I strongly encourage any parent with a student with a visual impairment or a vision concern, please feel free to reach out. Thank
Right,
you.
then, thank you. Ms. Lopez, you have anything else?
Yes, always. You know me, Brandon said I got it last week. I will see you back next Tuesday for my 12th grade one, because it will have about our Alamo Promise that is available to all of our students, especially SPED. It will cover all of these. So that's my plug. Right, Brandon?
Yeah, very good job. Very good. You're taking my job now.
I like my job. I love my job.
All right.
I would like to thank everybody here. Thank you so much for taking the time to give all this information to our families at East Central. And in addition to that, I want families to know that you're not alone, and we are here to help and support you guys through this entire process of your child growing up and going off and getting careers and jobs. So we're here for you, and all our doors are open to you. So.
All right. I don't want to follow that too much because that was excellent. All right. Thank you all so much for watching. And as Mrs. Lopez said, we're going to have another Facebook and YouTube Live next week. So next Tuesday at 5, right?
Yes.
We're going to be right back here.
Yes.
All right. All right. Actually, I'm sorry. There's always one question that rolls in the very end. So Veronica asked, if your child is a sophomore, when can they take the TSI?
They can contact the Go Center. They are setting up appointments as we speak. Like I said, they're on Tuesdays and they are here on campus. So they just contact the Go Center.
All right. Now officially we're done. All right. So thank you all very much for watching, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Have a good